We are a community that is united not around convenience or comfort, but because God has called us to greater things. It's not about where we meet, it's about the people who gather. We are the church. We exist for the world. Because Jesus has proven time and time again that he can change everything for anyone. And with that anchored to our hearts, we risk everything to rescue those who are lost. This isn't just an hour on Sunday. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, across the Puget Sound and around the world. We are the church.
We are together for Kirkland.
Together for Bothell.
Kenmore.
Mercer Island.
For Monroe.
Together for Seattle.
Together for Bothell.
Juanita.
Kirkland.
Together for Cascadia.
We are together for Kirkland.
Together for our city, we open our hands and let go of fear. Together for our city, we open our hearts and live by faith, because God calls us into the unknown, and with confidence, we emerge as light in a dark place.
Hey everybody, welcome to Northshore Online. My name is Stephen Bolt. So excited to be spending some time with you today. If this is your first time joining us, I just wanted to give you a special welcome. I don't know if somebody invited you here today or maybe you just found us online, but either way, thank you guys for taking some time and just hanging out with us today. If you have any questions throughout today's experience, you can let us know in the comment section or just shoot us a message on our website, northshore.church. Thank you guys for joining us. We're so glad that you're here. Let's jump into the experience together.
I am weary from the waves crashing over every day. God of mercy, please come rescue me. I am longing for your voice, gentle whisper in the noise. Father, tell me everything's alright. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. Okay, let's sing together. You alone can take my scars and piece by piece restore my heart. Take what's broken, make it whole again. Sing your power. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. There will be breakthrough. Shake the mountains, break the walls apart, open the heavens. Almighty God, you are overcomer, defender of my heart. By your power, the oceans open wide. Your fire falls down, heaven and earth collide. King Jesus, forever by my
everybody. Welcome back. If you just joined us during worship, my name is Steven. We're so excited to be spending some time with you here today. Hey, you probably heard us say something a lot. It's that we are a church that is together for our neighbors, the next generation, and those in need. A couple months ago, we started something called the Together for Fund, where all of the contributions that are given to that would go out into our community and all around the world directly to people who have been affected by COVID-19. That money that goes out is helping people with bills, with medical bills, with food, people that are behind on rent, anything that they need. And I wanted to let you guys know that over $300,000 has gone out these doors into our community. What an incredible thing it is to be a part of a church that is so generous. So thank you guys for those of you who have given to that fund. I also wanted to invite you that now might be the perfect time for you to join in and start giving here at Northshore. To give, you can head to northshore.church/give. You can click the link that our hosts are posting in the chat section, or you can just text NShore to the number on your screen right now. I also wanted to tell you guys about something really exciting coming up on July 9th. It's Starting Point Online. At Starting Point, you'll find out more information on who Northshore is and why we exist. You'll also find out how to find community, get plugged in here, and even a spot to serve right here at Northshore. Make sure you head over to northshore.church/connect and get signed up for Starting Point. It's starting real soon, July 9th, so make sure to head over to the website, northshore.church. Hey, thank you guys again for joining us. Let's jump back into the experience together.
Sing it, hey, you take what the enemy meant for
Hey everybody, happy 4th of July weekend. I'm so glad that you're joining us today. I want to start this message with a question. How many of you love to lose? How many of you love to lose? Like when you meet up with friends to play basketball or soccer and you can't wait to be humiliated by the other team. Or when you get together for game night with friends and you're thinking, I really hope I lose every game. Here's another question. How many of you love to lose to your spouse or significant other? I bet no hands are going up with that one. I just read a story this week about a married couple who decided to teach their kids Monopoly. But as soon as the game started, it was like they forgot they were parents. You're in trouble now, the wife says as she put up her first hotel. Then her husband acquired all 4 railroads. And he said, I'm about to make it rain money, laughing in her face. And by the way, who still says make it rain money? But then she acquired both Park Place and Boardwalk, which is like the kiss of death when playing Monopoly. And then when her husband landed in jail, she stood up smiling and yelled, game over. All the while, their young kids were just staring at them in shock. Now, for those of you who are wondering, no, this is not a story about my family, because let's be honest, there's no way Nina could ever beat me in Monopoly. But here's my point. Nobody likes to lose. Someone much wiser than me once said this, winning is better than not winning. Brilliant, right? And you thought you weren't going to learn anything at church today. Winning is better than not winning. And here's the thing. This is true for all of us. I mean, no one woke up this morning thinking, I really want to lose in my work life, or I really want to lose in my financial life, or I really want to lose in a relationship or in my marriage. It may not be clear to you what the win is, but nobody likes to lose. Everybody wants to win. So here's a question I want to ask you. What does winning at life really look like? What does winning at life really look like? Those of you who are younger and dreaming about what the future holds, what does winning at life look like for you? Those of you who may be a little older, you've lived through a number of ups and downs already in your life. What does winning at life look like for you? Those of you who are middle-aged like me and you're not sure if you're younger or older, sorry, that means you're not younger anymore. What does winning at life look like for you? What does this winning look like? Because how you answer this question is going to determine how you live. And I want to let you in on a little secret right now at the beginning. God defines winning at life differently than our world does. God defines winning at life differently than our world does. And the good news is, He doesn't define winning at life by how much you make, or by how successful you are, or how well-liked you are. The bad news is, He doesn't define a winning life by how much you make, or how successful you are, or how well-liked you are. Instead, God defines winning by, losing. In fact, one of the most commonly repeated statements about life that Jesus ever made was this: if you want to save your own life, you will lose it. But if you lose your life for my sake, you'll save it. It's almost as if Jesus is saying, if you want to win, first, you've got to lose. So what is Jesus even talking about? And why should someone living 2,000 years later even take this seriously, especially if none of us like the idea of losing? Well, today, I want to answer that question with you. And to help me answer that question, I asked a very dear friend of mine who's facing the greatest challenge in his life, he's literally fighting for his life, to share with all of us what winning in life really looks like to him. And we'll get to that story in just a few moments. But to set the table for his story, I want to tell you another story about a man in the Bible named Jacob. We've been learning about Jacob in this series, Weak Made Strong. Jacob, remember, was the son of a man named Isaac and the grandson of a man named Abraham, to whom God made this incredible promise. He said, I will bless you and make you into a great nation, and all other nations will be blessed through you. But here's the thing. Jacob actually wasn't in line to carry on this blessing. He had a fraternal twin brother named Esau. But Esau was the firstborn son by just a few seconds. But that meant that Esau had the right to his father's blessing and double the inheritance, which meant Esau would receive more money, more property, more prosperity. But Jacob decided early on, I won't accept losing. He's determined to win in life no matter what it takes. So Jacob came up with this elaborate scheme to deceive his father, to get his father's blessing. And you know the story. He cheated his brother out of his brother's inheritance, and then he runs away from home to build a life far away from his family. And then last week, we got to witness Jacob's journey to find love. It's one of those stories that's hard to believe is actually in the Bible. I mean, Jacob was in love with a woman named Rachel, but her dad tricked Jacob into marrying her sister, Leah. I mean, talk about waking up and wondering if you married the wrong person. But Jacob won't accept losing. He's determined to win in life, no matter what it takes. And then 2 wives, 2 maidservants, and 12 kids later, Jacob finally has a family to call his own. It's a pretty dysfunctional family, but it's a family. Well, this week, for the first time in Jacob's story, we find him in a position of strength. Let me quickly set up the story for you because the context matters. Jacob has been working for his uncle Laban. And he's done such a good job that his uncle offers to pay any price to keep Jacob on the payroll. Look at what he says. He says, name your wages and I'll pay them. I actually told our board of overseers this would be a great Bible verse to memorize next time they do my performance review. I'm just kidding. They didn't actually say that. Name your wages and I'll pay them. That's how valuable Jacob has become. So Jacob asks for partial ownership of all of Laban's livestock, which sounds legitimate, but remember, this is Jacob we're talking about. There's always an angle, there's always a plan, there's always a scheme, because he's determined to win in life, no matter what it takes. So what does he do? Well, he sets up this elaborate breeding scheme to make sure he ends up with the strongest and best of the herds. And here again, his little plan works. The writer of Genesis says this, so the weak animals went to Laban, and the strong ones to Jacob. At this point, Jacob has gone from weak to strong in almost every area of his life. He has all the boxes checked. He is financially secure. He has enough wealth to no longer need to work for his uncle or anyone else. He's vocationally secure. He has enough livestock to provide work for his sons and his servants. He's relationally secure. He's married with children. And then he's legacy secure. You see, in the ancient world, it was believed that having a son was the only way for a man to ensure that his name and legacy were to live on. Well, Jacob didn't have just one son. He had 12. So it appears that Jacob has finally made it. In fact, if you look at what the writer says next in Genesis, he says, in this way, the man Jacob grew exceedingly prosperous and came to own large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. Another way to translate this phrase, exceedingly prosperous, is Jacob is winning. He's got all the railroads. He's got hotels on Park Place and Broadway. He's gone from losing to winning, from insecure to confident, from vulnerable to powerful, which is when the real fight of his life begins, which is where we pick up our story. Here's what happens next. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. Now, by the way, if you have a Bible or you're taking notes, I want you to underline or highlight or write down this phrase, I will be with you. We'll come back to that in a moment. But God says, go back. I want you to go back to your home, which means Jacob is going to have to face the one person he doesn't want to see. Who? His brother Esau. So what does Jacob do? He comes up with yet another elaborate scheme because he's not going to lose. So first, he sends a messenger to tell Esau that he's coming to visit. He doesn't go himself. He's got to test the waters first, try to get a sense of how Esau is going to respond. And so he says this, now I am sending this message to my Lord that I might find favor in your eyes. No apology. No, I'm sorry for stealing your inheritance all those years ago. See, Jacob, he's not as interested in making things right. He just wants things to be okay. So the messenger goes, gives Esau the message, and then he comes back and says, we found your brother, and he's coming to meet you. Oh, and one more thing. He's coming with 400 men. 400 men. That's not a welcome party. That's a small army. And remember, the last time these two brothers were together, Esau had threatened to kill Jacob. And their mom, Rebekah, sent Jacob away saying, when your brother calms down and forgets all this, I'll send for you. But here's the thing. That word never came, which means Jacob probably still believes that Esau is still angry. Now he's coming to get his revenge. So how does Jacob react? More scheming. Look at this. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, and all the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. And by the way, which group do you think Jacob will put himself in? The group that is left, of course, group 2. Sounds like a great place to be, right? But the scheming doesn't stop there. Next, Jacob prays. He says this, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, and I quote, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. Notice Jacob is quoting God's promise back to God, but he doesn't get the promise quite right. See, God didn't say, go back and I will make you prosper. Remember the words I told you to underline just a few minutes ago? God said, go back and what? He said, go back and I will be with you. But you see, Jacob isn't really that interested in God's presence. He would prefer that God protect his stuff, the stuff he worked hard to get. He worked hard to get where he is. He's no longer a loser. He's a winner, and he wants to keep it that way. And so he actually tries to rewrite God's promise. I guess he's hoping God would forget or he wouldn't notice. And by the way, we do this too, don't we? All the time. Jesus, remember the Great Commission when you called your disciples to go and make disciples, and you promised us financial security and vocational security and relational security and future security. That's what we tend to pray, or we anxiously or even arrogantly wish for. But God knows better, and we should know better, because here's the thing. God doesn't promise our prosperity. He promises his presence. And the good news is, this is actually a much better deal for us, and Jacob is about to find out why. But for now, Jacob, the scheming continues. After the prayer, Jacob decides to bribe his brother. He's got money and power. Why not use it? And so he sends Esau an extravagant gift made up of goats and sheep and camels and cows and donkeys. But here's the thing. This gift isn't really about loving Esau. It's about pacifying Esau. By the way, anyone else ever use a gift to try to make someone else not mad at you? Of course not. None of us would ever do something like that, right? Well, after Jacob sends Esau this gift, Jacob is left with only his family and his personal possessions. But surely he'll stay with them. Surely he'll stay put. He'll put their safety before his own, right? Jacob. Oh, look at what he does next. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions, so Jacob was left alone. So here, in this last-ditch effort to protect himself, Jacob sends his family across the river first, putting their lives at risk to save his own. I mean, what kind of a husband would do something like that? Quick story, years ago when Nina and I were living in California, there was an earthquake in the middle of the night, and we woke up to our house shaking from side to side. And so I sprang out of bed and told Nina, just stay here, as if somehow me going to check things out would make her more safe. When in reality, I left her in a much more dangerous situation by asking her to stay in our bedroom. Thankfully, she was willing to forgive me for that, but I promised if we ever moved, we would find a home far away from those California earthquakes. Of course, I didn't find out until we got here. There's like a major fault line that runs directly beneath the city of Seattle. So I'm like 0 for 2 on earthquake safety. But Jacob sends his family across the river first, and now Jacob is alone. And here's what's really important about this moment in his life. All his stuff is gone. All his security is gone. All of this exceeding prosperity is gone. And part of me wonders if he noticed the irony that in trying to save his life, he'd given up everything. And now there's nothing more he can do. No more schemes, no more bribes, no more tricks up his sleeve. You see, no matter how well you can play the game of life, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much money you have, there will come a day when all the houses and hotels, all the railroads and get-out-of-jail-free cards are gone, and it's just you. Wondering, as I'm sure Jacob was wondering, what game have I been playing? What has my life been all about? Really, really? I mean, Jacob worked his whole life to go from weak to strong, and now he's been thrown right back into his weakness and vulnerability, which is, of course, what God had been waiting for this whole time. Look at what happened next. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Now, Jacob doesn't know that God himself has come in the form of this stranger, though he's about to find that out. And notice, the text doesn't say this stranger just showed up that night or came and found him that night. He was just there because God has always been there. And notice, God doesn't come with words of comfort or tenderness. God picks a fight. Because here's the thing, that's what faith in God is all about. It's a struggle. It's a wrestling match. Some of you may have been around church for a long time, and you may think of faith as a set of beliefs that you memorize or a personal admission that you believe that God exists. But that's not biblical faith. Biblical faith is a fight. It's a wrestling match between you and God over who's actually in control of your life, who's going to define the win. And here's the deal. It's not even a fair fight. Look at what happens to Jacob next. When the man saw that he could not overpower Jacob, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Now, by the way, scholars debate exactly what part of the hip area this is referring to, and while no one can be sure, the answer is most likely the least likely part of the body that I can talk about in a sermon. So you take that for what it is, which is when we get to the heart of the story and the turning point in Jacob's life. Look at this. The man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Here's the thing. Jacob, he's old, he's weak, he's alone, and now he's wounded. He spent his whole life trying to get from weak to strong, and now in a moment he's gone from strong to weak. His exceeding prosperity can't help him. He can't scheme or pretend or manipulate his way out. In other words, Jacob finally knows that he can't win. And here's the deal. At some point, everyone comes to this place in life. Your health will fail, or your circumstances will turn, or your dream for your life will not pan out the way that you dreamed. At some point, you're going to realize, I can't win in life on my own. I have a friend who often takes walks in a cemetery near his home. And I asked him why, and he said, because I never want to forget that we all face the same fate. That no matter how well you play the game of life, there will be a stone in the ground with my name on it. And there will be a stone in the ground with your name on it. In other words, game over. But in this moment in Jacob's life, he reminds us that you have a choice. You can lose your life in one of two ways. You can either try to save it, protect it, stay in control, do it your way, cross your fingers that death is just the end and there's nothing else beyond, and that life has no real meaning and your relationships don't really matter, and that all you are is just dust. That's one answer. That's one choice. Or you right now can lose your life to God. You can surrender control to Him. You can realize, as Jacob did in this moment of painful defeat, that money can't save you, work can't satisfy you, relationships can't fulfill you, and no amount of security can protect you, but God can save you. Because if you lose your life for His sake, what happens? You save it. In other words, when you lose to God, you win. When you surrender to God, you win. Friends, I don't know what winning in life has looked like for you. Maybe it's trying to have that perfect family. Maybe it's trying to become financially secure. Maybe it's having other people approve of you or win their esteem or respect. Maybe winning is just trying to beat down the voices of shame and insecurity inside through whatever means necessary. What I know is the real struggle in your life is not with your boss or your spouse or your circumstances. The real struggle in your life right now is with God over who's in charge. And here's the good news. When you realize that God is all you have, when you come to this place that God is all you have, when you lose everything, when you hit rock bottom and realize that God is all you have, you will discover this amazing truth that God is all you need. And when you surrender to God, here's what's so cool. You get a new name. You get a fresh start, a second chance. Look back at Jacob's story. The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob," which means grabber or deceiver, "but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Israel, it's actually the combination of these two words, Isra, to persevere or hold on to, and El, which means God. In other words, Jacob, you're no longer going to be defined by your attempt to control or manage your life. You're going to be defined as someone who holds on to God, not who always gets it right, not who always does it perfectly, but someone who just hangs on. And by the way, isn't it amazing that God's people are forever defined by this name? We're not the people of Abraham or the people of David. We are the people of Israel. We are people who say, God, I will not let go no matter what. But here's the thing. There's a cost to this new start, a cost to this new name. Jacob says, "Please tell me your name." But the man replied, "Why do you ask my name?" As if to say, don't you already know who I am? And then the text says that God blessed him there. And so Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." And the sun rose above him as he passed by Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. See, no longer is Jacob a man of exceeding prosperity. Now he's just a guy with a limp. No longer is Jacob able to lead out with his strength. Now he has to lead with his weakness, and everybody who meets him will see it. I was just thinking this week how hard I work in my life to try to hide the limps in my life. My insecurity, my need for approval, my struggle with anxiety and with anger. Because I tend to live as if my weaknesses are threats to winning in life. And my guess is I'm not the only one who does that. Because we live in this world that says it's the strong who win, it's the powerful who come out on top. But remember, God defines winning at life differently than our world does. And with God, it's our weakness and brokenness and vulnerability that God uses to do His best work in us and through us. And without getting too far into next week's message, the next day when Esau saw Jacob limping to meet him, he ran to meet him and embraced him, and they wept together. Years of pain healed, not by a show of strength, but by a man emptied of his pride and humbled in his heart and limping all the way to the finish. So question, what's your limp? What do you see as a limitation or a liability to winning in your life? A health issue? A disability? A struggle? A problem in your life or in your family? Here's the thing, friends. Your limp is not a liability. Your limp is not a liability. It's a launching pad for God to do something greater in your life, but you have to choose to trust Him with it. And you have to be willing to let people see it. One of my great friends and spiritual mentors is a man in our church named Corky. And I shared a little bit about what he's going through in life a few months ago. But right when COVID-19 first hit, He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest forms of cancer there is. He was given less than a year to live, and he's been in and out of the hospital. He's had a complicated procedure called a Whipple surgery, removing his pancreas, part of his small intestine, his gallbladder, and half of his stomach. And in a few weeks, he begins a 6-month round of chemotherapy. Corky has lost a lot this year, and it's possible he could lose even more. Well, just over a week ago, I went to visit him, and I asked him to share a little bit about what he's learned about God through this struggle, through this limp in his life. So take a look at this.
My name is Corky Swanson. I am who I am because of Jesus. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life, other than accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, is to be married to Shirley. We got married when we were 19 years old, and we've been married 53 years now, and 17 grandkids, 1 great-granddaughter and 1 in the oven. So we'll have 2 great-grandkids here pretty soon. Jesus has always been my all in all. There have been times in my life where I felt self-sufficient, I guess. I remember at a 20-year-old, Shirley and I had been married for a year, and I got drafted by Uncle Sam. And it was during the Vietnam-era war. We were married for 6 months, and all of a sudden I find myself on a bus on the way to the Army. 20 years old, I just finished my first season as a semi-pro baseball player. I was in fantastic shape. I remember going to basic training and going through jungle warfare training, going through the gas chambers, going through hand-to-hand combat. You never know when your life's going to be taken. So I need to make a determination in regards to following Jesus or playing a role. So it was at that point in my life that I developed a discipline that I've used ever since then. And I basically put my thumb on my mouth as a reminder to shut up, don't talk. And then I put my hand on my vein so I can feel my heartbeat. And as I'm listening, which is so critical to do, if I stop to pause and be quiet with my lips and listen to my pulse, God speaks to me in very unique ways. The word is phenomenal, and I do have another one, phantasmagorical, but it's not something that I say flippantly. It's become very much a part of my life. Shirley and I have walked and wrestled with God over several different things. We have a daughter that's a victim of domestic violence, and her ex-husband suffocated her into unconsciousness and almost killed her, had to bring her back to life with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And then seeing how the judges and everything ruled and everything, it just kind of had me in turmoil. And one day, where phenomenal came back into my life was sitting in the courtroom, and this young man that almost killed my daughter was sitting in between a glass partition and me. And I looked at him, and Jesus said, "You know, Corky, I died for him just like I died for you." So I had to change my attitude and my reflection on life to the point where I could be phenomenal in that situation too, knowing that Jesus died for what I thought was one of the worst sinners in the world, trying to take my daughter's life. The news that came our way was kind of like a deer in the headlight type thing. I remember going into the doctor, and he came back with a prognosis. He said, "This isn't good." The words that came from the doctor's mouth was, "You have somewhere between 5 months and a year to live." And that was difficult. Not that I wasn't ready to go home with Jesus, but thinking about leaving Shirley and our family was just, it became more about how is this going to affect them, because we're very close as a family, and I know this is going to impact their lives probably more than mine. So basically what it meant was if I didn't do it, I had 5 months to a year to live, And if I did do the surgery, there's a possibility of adding 1 to 5 years to it, but there was no guarantee. And the surgery is just horrific. We made a decision to go ahead and have the surgery. So they took out my pancreas, they took out the duodenum. Half of my stomach is gone. Totally replumbed everything within my body. The surgery was 12 hours long. It was really hard on Shirley because of the COVID-19 thing. She was not allowed to be with me. I was surrounded by angels, and I'm convinced that there were angels there. This is the weakest time of my life. In the hospital, I had to be moved with one of those chairs that they strap you into to get me out of the bed and into the chair, and then out of the chair and back into the bed. I couldn't move. Not only had a limp, I was next to flatlining. So I went from that to walking with a walker, and very quickly moved to a cane. Limping through life right now is something that is a daily venture with God. He's my crutch, he's my cane, he's my walker. My whole life I was full of vim and vigor and loved working with young people, tried to keep up with them, and most of the time I could. Now it's like I get up and take a shower and I need a nap. Eat breakfast, I need a nap. Do my exercises, I need a nap. If you view limping as a handicap, then you're not phenomenal. If you view limping as an opportunity to share in a new part of your life where Christ is working in you, then that limp becomes glory. So that's whatever my limp is, I'll limp to the finish line as fast as I can.
You know, Corky, I just want to say I love you and thank you for those words. Honestly, as I think about it, I could listen to you teach me every day, and we are praying for you every day. Some of you, like Corky, right now are limping through life. Maybe you're in a moment in your marriage that's deeply painful or broken. Maybe you're struggling at work or financially or with your health. Maybe life looks really good on the outside, but inside there's emptiness or fear. To paraphrase my friend Corky, if you view limping as a handicap, then you are not phenomenal. But if you view limping as an opportunity to share how Jesus is working in you, then your glory becomes your limp, and your limp becomes your glory. You know, it's interesting in Jacob's story, he gives this place where he got this limp a very unique name. He doesn't call it the place where I fought God or the place where I lost to God. He calls it Peniel, which means the place where I saw God face to face. You see, friends, it's through our struggles that we finally come to see God. It's when we lose our life to God that we finally win. And you lose your life to God right now. Some of you can do this for the first time. You just need to say, God, I need you. I don't want to rely on myself or my stuff anymore. All I can do is lose my life and surrender who I am to you and give you control. And I want to receive your love and grace and forgiveness. And I will not let go, God. I will not let go. And if that's your prayer, that's what saving faith looks like. It's just desperate need. It's just desperate need. Why have we made it into some kind of a moral achievement? Saving faith is desperate need for God. The God who's right here with you. And if that's your prayer, if that's your heart, the next step is to do what followers of Jesus have done as a sign of this new start, a sign of their new faith, of their new name. You need to get baptized. See, baptism, it's this amazing thing. It's the way we reenact that great struggle with God. It's a sign of our defeat, that the same moment is our victory. Baptism is how we tell the world that in Christ, losers can win, and sinners can win, and liars and schemers and manipulators can still win. And if you haven't taken that step, if you haven't gone public with your faith in Jesus, now is the time. We're actually going to have a special baptism celebration right here at Northshore on July 26th. You can go to northshore.church/baptism, find out more, get signed up. And if you live too far to drive, we have an option for you to do this wherever you live, and you can connect via video. But don't miss this chance. Don't miss this moment to win by losing and to find joy by surrendering. Don't miss this moment to let your struggle, your pain, your darkness become the place where Christ brings his glorious transformation into your life. Because no matter how dark the night may feel or how difficult the struggle may be, like Jacob's story, a sunrise is coming. A new day is coming. A new start is coming. And I know this is true because 2,000 years ago, another man from heaven came down to wrestle with humanity all the way to a cross and all the way into a tomb. And then 3 days later, as the sun came up once again, he walked out of that tomb, still bearing on his body the signs of the defeat that became his victory, and the death that brought us life, and the limp that became glory. So let's pray. Jesus, we want to surrender our lives to you right now. We all in some way are struggling against you for control because we want to win, we want to be successful, we want to have that great family, we want to have that great life. But you've taught us and told us that it's not by striving to remain in control that we win. It's actually by losing, by surrendering. And so we want to start today with those 4 simple words, Jesus. God, I need you. I need you. We need you right now, Jesus. In our relationships, in our work, in the painful struggles of our life. God, meet us there. And in your love, wrestle from us the control and the perfectionism and the need to be perfect and the need to succeed that we all cling to so deeply. God, we need you in this day. And we're so thankful that you find us in those moments of darkness and bring us into new life with you. Help us trust you. May our glory be our lamp, and our lamp be our glory today. And everybody said, amen.
There is a king seated among us. Let every heart receive him now. Where there is praise, he will inhabit. There will be grace and mercy all around. Every burden will be lifted in his presence. Every trophy will be laid down at his feet. There is a name that reigns above all others. Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. Under the Lamb, honor and glory, worthy is he who overcame, buried in shame, risen in power. He is alive, the stone is rolled away. All our worship will belong to him forever. Death is conquered, and our Savior holds the keys. There is a name and every tear He'll wipe away. We'll be at home, the war will be over. Soon we will meet our Savior face to face, and every burden will be lifted in His presence. Every trophy will be laid down at His feet. There is a name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. And all of our worship will belong to You forever. Holy, holy, for all eternity. There is a name that reigns above all others, Jesus Christ, the King above all kings. Jesus Christ, the King above all kings.
Well, you've heard Jacob's story and the depth of his struggle and the darkest place of his life. He found a God he could trust with his whole life, and he didn't let go. But the real story I'm thinking about right now is yours. And some of you, of this last hour, you declared that great need for God. God, I need You. I just need You, in struggle or in limping or in desperation. And God is with you right now. And if that's you, I want to encourage you right now to take this next step, to sign up and be baptized and join in this great redemption of God in your life. Don't miss this chance to experience the grace God has for you in the midst of whatever struggle you face. If at any time you need prayer or support, reach out. We'd love to be walking with you and standing with you in whatever you're walking through. And then next week, we're going to conclude with the final chapter of Jacob's saga. And it ends with kind of a cliffhanger, so you're not going to want to miss it. But until then, we love you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.